He saw me before she did. I waved. It wasn't a rage-filled wave or some dramatic gesture. Just a small, two-finger lift from the steering wheel as I sat in my car across the street, parked in the shadow of a rundown gas station. Enough for him to know I was there. Enough for him to know I saw. The motel's neon vacancy sign buzzed quietly in the dusk behind him. He froze. I think I always knew it would end like this. Not the motel specifically, but the silence. The quiet unraveling of something I had built my life around. The erosion was slow, polite even. A withheld kiss here. A distracted love you there. Nights she didn't notice when I stayed awake long after she'd fallen asleep, just watching the ceiling, wondering where the warmth went. The last thing she said to me that morning was, "Trust me." I wish she hadn't said it like that. So soft, so sure. As if she still believed she deserved the words. As if they hadn't already been used up, drained of their meaning like a dry sponge pretending to hold water. "Trust me," she said. And I did. Again. Against the ache in my gut, against the late-night text messages she flipped her screen down to hide, against the distant smell of someone else's cologne I couldn't name. I trusted her. She was wearing the scarf I gave her for our 4th anniversary. Navy blue. Cashmere. It looked better on her when we were in love. The way she clutched it now, tugging the ends nervously, eyes darting toward the motel entrance, it looked like it was strangling her. She didn't see me, but he did. Chris. My best friend since college. The guy who once picked me up from the side of a highway at 3 a.m. because I blew a tire and was too broke to call a tow. The same guy who gave a toast at our wedding and cried harder than I did. He said I was the most loyal man he'd ever known. I guess I didn't expect loyalty in return, but I thought I'd at least get honesty. They didn't touch. Not at first. That part was almost worse. Like watching a movie on mute, trying to read the tension in their body language. She smiled at him, the kind of smile that once used to be mine. The slow, warm kind. The one I hadn't seen in months. And then, just like that, she leaned into him. He didn't hesitate. Their bodies brushed. Her hand disappeared into his. And they walked through that cheap, peeling door like it was the entrance to a secret life. As if the rest of us no longer existed. I sat there for a full 5 minutes, not moving, not breathing much, just watching the motel door like it might spit them back out if I stared hard enough. And in that moment, all the signs I'd ignored started replaying like someone flipping through pages in a book I had refused to finish. It started with her forgetting our traditions. Little things. She forgot the anniversary of our first date. No big deal. I forgot things too. But then she missed our Sunday walks. Our Tuesday takeout nights. She stopped making coffee in the morning like she used to, humming that same off-key version of Dream a Little Dream of Me. When I asked if something was wrong, she smiled and said, "You're just imagining it." I wanted to believe that. So I did. But the distance grew like a slow leak. At first you don't notice. Then you start waking up cold, even though the blanket's still there. She started staying late at work. Said the store was struggling, they needed her more. I believed her. Or maybe I just didn't want to be the kind of husband who didn't believe his wife. Chris started coming around more often. He always had a reason. A beer. A game. Some stupid question about his taxes. The visits got longer, and his eyes lingered too much when she laughed. She'd laugh in front of him in ways she didn't laugh with me anymore. And me? I was tired. Tired from work. Tired from pretending not to notice. Tired of being tired. I remember one night, I came home early, surprised her. She was in the backyard, on the phone, her voice soft and serious. When she saw me, she hung up fast. "Who was that?" I asked. She didn't even hesitate. "My mom." I wanted to believe that. So I did. I was always good at believing her. Until last week. Until I found the hotel key in her coat pocket. Room 214. Name of a motel we'd never stayed in. A brand we never would. I held it in my hand for a long time, trying to talk myself out of what I already knew. When she got home that night, I said nothing. I made dinner. Kissed her cheek. Watched her smile at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. The next morning, she said it again. That same soft voice. "Trust me." She kissed me goodbye like she used to. Like she remembered for 1 second who we used to be. I wanted to believe it was real. But the key was still in my pocket. And now here we were. Chris staring at me from across the street, face pale. My wife's back turned, her hand in his. Their silhouettes swallowed by the cracked door of a $60 a night betrayal. I didn't follow them. I didn't scream. I didn't knock. I just turned the ignition and drove away. Not because I was weak, but because I finally believed her. And that belief broke something in me I don't think I'll ever get back. I drove for nearly 2 hours that night. No music, no destination. Just the road and the raw, open sound of tires on pavement. My hands never left the wheel, but my mind was nowhere near that car. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. I just felt hollow, like someone had cut out the middle of me and left the edges standing out of habit. I ended up in a Walmart parking lot, of all places. It was the only thing open at that hour. I sat there with the engine off and the windows cracked, watching strangers come and go under the yellowed glow of flickering lights. I wondered how many of them were carrying secrets too. How many were smiling through betrayal, lying to themselves because the truth cost more than they could afford to pay. When the sun started to rise, I called in sick. I didn't sleep that day. I packed instead. Not everything, just enough. A suitcase, a duffel, a box for the things that still felt like mine. My books, my records, a sweater my mom knitted before she passed. Her voice felt closer now than my wife's ever did. I didn't leave a note. I figured if she wanted to explain, she could call. If she wanted to lie, she'd show up. She didn't. Not that day. Not the next. She came home to a half-empty closet, a missing toothbrush, an email from my lawyer with the subject line, "Preliminary separation agreement." I stayed with my brother for the first week. He didn't ask questions, and I didn't volunteer answers. We watched sports and ate takeout and pretended like we were just roommates again, like we were 22 and life hadn't turned us into strangers to ourselves yet. But eventually, I had to face it. Not just what they did, but what I let happen. Because the truth is, Chris wasn't the only one who saw me wave that night. She saw me too. Not at first. But as they reached the door, something in him must have cracked. He turned his head, and she followed his eyes. And there I was, sitting in my car, watching. For a moment, she didn't move. Her hand slipped from his. Her expression shifted, from shock to shame to something else entirely. Something I still don't understand. Not guilt. Not regret. It looked more like relief. Like she'd been waiting to get caught. I don't know what broke me more, the betrayal or the realization that I might have just been a chapter she was trying to end the whole time. A few days after I moved out, she texted me, "Can we talk?" I ignored it. Then came another. "Please. Just once. In person." So I agreed. We met at a coffee shop downtown, one of those quiet ones with creaky wooden floors and too many succulents on the shelves. She wore that same navy scarf. No makeup. No smile. I sat across from her, stirred my coffee twice, and said nothing. She spoke first. "I'm sorry," she whispered, like the words might break her teeth on the way out. I don't even know where to start. But I think she did. I think she'd rehearsed every line. She told me she didn't plan it. That it just happened. That she and Chris had leaned on each other when things got hard. That it was emotional before it was physical. She said all the things people say when they know they've destroyed something they can't rebuild. I listened. I nodded. I didn't interrupt. Then she said the thing I'll never forget. "I didn't stop loving you. I just started needing something else." That hurt worse than the motel door. Not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. She wasn't lying anymore. She had no reason to. I was already gone. And still, even then, a small, stupid part of me wanted her to beg, to cry, to say it was all a mistake. But she didn't. She just looked tired. Not from guilt, from pretending. "I thought I could do both," she said quietly, eyes wet but unashamed. "Love you and still find whatever I was missing." I set my cup down. "You were my best friend," I said. She flinched. "I know." "No," I said. "You don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't have taken him, too." Her eyes met mine, and for once, she didn't look away. "I'm sorry," she repeated. I nodded. "I believe you." She reached across the table, fingers brushing the edge of my hand. "I'd take it back if I could." I pulled my hand away. "But you won't." She didn't argue. We sat there in silence for a few minutes longer. Two people who once shared everything, now just strangers with shared memories. Before she left, she said one more thing. "I never wanted to be the villain." I didn't respond. I just watched her walk out, just like I did that night at the motel. Only this time, she looked back. After that coffee shop meeting, we didn't speak for 3 months. No texts, no calls, just silence, the kind that settles in your bones. I wasn't angry anymore, not really. Just emptied out, like a house that still stands after a fire but isn't worth living in anymore. I thought about Chris more than I thought about her. That part surprised me. I kept replaying our friendship like a tape with too many rewind scratches. The late-night talks in college. Helping him move 3 times. Covering for him when he got dumped and spiraled for weeks. He used to call me his lifeline. I guess I should have asked who he was saving me from. I heard from mutual friends that it didn't last. He and her, they fizzled quick. A few weeks, maybe a month. Too much weight, not enough foundation. Turns out, cheating doesn't build a strong beginning. She moved out of the apartment we shared. Left behind some dishes, a broken lamp, a photo of us from our honeymoon I'd forgotten we ever framed. I found it wedged in the back of a drawer, the glass cracked, but our smiles intact. It felt like looking at ghosts. That night, I stood in the living room, the air thick with dust and quiet, and did something I hadn't done in years. I cried, not because I wanted her back, not even because I missed her, but because I had finally accepted it. The version of her I loved didn't exist anymore. Maybe she never did. Maybe I was just in love with the best version of someone who wasn't finished becoming who they really were. And maybe she was doing the same with me. You don't survive betrayal by pretending it didn't happen. You survive it by dragging it into the light and letting it change you. So I let it. I quit my job. I needed a fresh start, not just emotionally, but geographically. I moved 2 states away, took a smaller role at a nonprofit doing work that felt like it mattered. I rented a studio above a bookstore, spent my nights walking unfamiliar streets, letting anonymity wash over me like a clean slate. I made new friends. Slowly, carefully. Trust didn't come easy after what happened, but it did come. One night, almost a year after I waved at Chris across that street, I ran into someone who reminded me of him. Same laugh, same walk. My stomach clenched, but then I let it go. Not everyone is a ghost from your past. Some people are just people. I'm still learning that. A few weeks later, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. Just one sentence. I still think about the wave. No name. No explanation. But I knew it was her. Funny how betrayal leaves its own kind of intimacy behind, like 2 soldiers who survived the same explosion but in different trenches. I didn't write back. Some things are better left as echoes. Now, on quiet nights, I still think about it. About her. About Chris. About the way people who claim to love you can become unrecognizable in a blink. But I also think about the version of me who sat in that car, watching the person he trusted most walk into a motel with the person he trusted second most. I don't pity him. I'm proud of him. He didn't break. He didn't scream. He didn't burn everything down to get even. He just waved. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is acknowledge the truth with calm clarity and choose peace over revenge. I don't tell this story to reopen wounds. I tell it because someone out there needs to hear this. You don't have to catch them in the act to know. You don't need proof to justify your gut. And you don't need closure to move on. Sometimes, all you need is to stop asking why and start asking what's next. And trust me, there is a next, even after the wave.